Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another in a series of videos where I'll be teaching you Crusader Kings 2. My name is Juggernaut, and today we're going to focus on expanding your territory through marriage. So, this was one of, if not the most requested thing to cover in the entire tutorials segment, and, well, there's a reason why practically no one does this. You can look up all sorts of tutorials online about Crusader Kings 2, many of them exist, few of them are outdated, but there is a shockingly low amount of people that have covered this topic. First of all, because it's difficult to explain, and far more importantly, in my opinion, it depends. What depends, Juggernaut? Well, we'll get into that in a bit. But essentially, what this video is going to do, and what I'm going to try and do, is explain to you the mechanics behind inheriting land, behind claims, and behind the entire process. What I cannot do is give you concrete examples that will always work, and give you precise instructions on how to do it. What do I mean by this? Let's say I want to inherit West Francia from this guy who I've been at war with for like 2 billion years, right? I unfortunately cannot give you a step-by-step way to do this every single time because it depends. Usually the game starting dates are configured in such a way that there is relatively little in the way of marriage that you can do within the first few years that will guaranteed grant you a lot of land. I remember in the earliest start, I believe the Duchess of Kiev is a female ruler with no heirs, so you could finagle a marriage there, but on the whole, not that much. So how does it work? Well, let's start from the ideal case scenario, and that would be the Duchess of Kiev in the earliest possible starting date with all the DLC. I don't have that currently, but I do have something rather similar, because I do have a rather big empire and I do have women in it. At least I think. Ah, here we go. Hello. So, she is not a king, but she will do, yes? So, Duchess Calais the Unfaithful of Epirus is actually a perfect example. Wow, I amaze myself. If only she were a bit younger, but hey, no. So, the ideal situation, how you want to inherit land, and how you want to expand your territory through marriage, is basically inheritance, right? You cannot control territory via marriage. Okay, so marriage is only a means to an end. Remember that. The way you control territory, the way you get territory, is by inheritance. And yes, you can inherit someone's independent country into your primary title. Right? I think I've explained how titles work in the past enough for everyone to know what I'm talking about, and for us to be on sort of the same level of language that we can use explaining these things. So, practical example, Duchess Calais the Unfaithful currently doesn't have that high of an opinion of me, and actually, why is that? Hunchback mostly, and envious. Okay, so she also does not have a male heir, so her heir is actually some form of relatively distant. It's actually her grandson, isn't it? Yes. So, what you could do in a situation like this, if you were not, you know, the emperor of the entire, what is essentially most of Europe, let's say if you were this guy, is you could get a divorce with your current wife and marry the good Duchess herself. Now, she's 72, so the likelihood of this succeeding is actually 0. She cannot have children at 72, so the likelihood is 0. But if she were a little bit younger, the Duke of Athens could marry her, have a child with her, and the Duchy of Epirus, which she controls, would fall under him the moment she dies. Not necessarily true. their son would inherit it because he's the only male heir to the controller of the title, right? She's not particularly. He would be the eldest male heir. Don't know if I mentioned it, but it should be kind of obvious. The child they need to have has to be male, obviously, in order to inherit. Well, again, laws can change that, but not currently, okay? Not in this society. At any rate, when she dies, the son will become the Duke, right? But this Duke will have the same heir as she does. So when they both die, the two titles should theoretically unite under their common heir. This is how you expand your titles and expand your control, influence, and your territory through marriage. This is the basics of it, this is the gist of it, this is the most simplified and simplistic way of doing it. You can't gain land by simply marrying someone. The person you married will still control their land independently. I mean, she's going to probably like you because she's your wife, or he, depending on the gender you play. However, you cannot expand your territory by doing it. Inheritance is the way to expand. So, that's the ideal case scenario, and is that everything? Well, no, because the medieval ages aren't that progressive. Male characters cannot marry, right? Gay marriage is not a thing. So how on earth do I inherit the Empire of the Abbasids if a male 9-year-old is holding it? This is where claims come in. Now, again, this is one of the most difficult things to explain in the game, if not the most difficult thing I will ever explain in this entire tutorial series, because it depends. It depends on every single solitary, isolated situation. In your case, this could be different. Not could be, but in your case, this will be different, and in my case, this will be different as well. I'll try and get the basics out. So, first of all, this is something that rings true for the entirety of the game from start to finish, for every game ever. Weak and strong claims. If you know about these, great. If not, I'll explain them really quickly for those that don't, because they're rather simple. A claim is essentially a CB. Well, it's a little bit more than that, but to all intents and purposes, it is a CB, a casus belli, a reason for war, a reason to declare war on someone, that you have. You don't have the territory, you have the claim on it. Matter of fact, when you fabricate a claim with the councillor, you actually create... when you fabricate CB with him, you actually fabricate a claim, and you get a claim yourself. Right? So, we can click on my character right now and see that he has a weak claim on the chiefdom of this place up here, a weak claim on this chiefdom down there, a strong claim on the chiefdom up here, and a couple of more weak claims on some rather insignificant pieces of land. You cannot have claims on the titles you already control, that's contradictory. A claim, by default, is a piece of land you do not own, but legally have... the right on is too strong. Legally have a claim on it, right? You believe, and it is justified, your belief, that you should be in control of it. Several people, mind you, can have the claim on the exact same title, which makes the entire legal issue a little bit more convoluted, but essentially you have a reason to declare war, and you have means of pushing, legally pushing this. So, how does it work? Well, first of all, weak claims, the only difference between weak and strong claims is weak claims are not inherited. My heir, which is right now my half-brother, but hopefully soon to be my son, will not inherit a weak claim. Here's a good example as well. My half-brother, which is currently in exile because he's a decadent bastard, has a strong claim on the entirety of the Hungarian Empire and the entirety of the Hispanian Empire, because those are the two empires I control. Why? He's my half-brother. He has legally the right to say, you know what, he shouldn't be emperor, I should be because I'm more capable, or whatever. in which case I will say off with his head, but he does have the claim on that. So, what would you do in a situation like this? Well, the good option for someone else, for example, Svitjold, West Francia, the Abbasids, even the Western Protectorate, though I'm not sure whether they can do this or not, is to marry him to one of your daughters. And then you could put him on the throne of the Hungarian Empire. How does that benefit you whatsoever? Well, he will be friendly towards you, and then, you know, he wouldn't attack you, but the idea is to eventually have the same heir as him. Or, better yet, make him your heir, if it's an elective monarchy. This is where the entire open succession thing comes in relatively useful, and this is where elective succession comes really useful. So, basically, the end goal always should be to have the same heir as the person, or no, the same heir as the title, or the controller of the title that you're trying to get has. So, me and West Francia, in this case, should have the same heir. That's the end goal. That's always the end goal. And then you try and kill the King of West Francia as quick as possible, and kill yourself as quick as possible. Yeah. Good news. Little helpful piece of advice. If the heir you want does get on the throne, and we'll talk about how we can put him on the throne in a little bit, you can form an alliance with him and help him during rebellions. If nothing else, by declaring war on the rebels themselves. So if you want to keep someone in power, you can do that. Just worth mentioning, because in such situations, let's say your son gets on the throne of West Francia in this case, they may try and dethrone him and put someone else instead. You can help him. Just putting it out there, remember that. Now, how do we actually go about, you know, putting our heir on the throne? Well, assassinations are your friend, first of all. Remember that. This guy, right now, does not have any, heirs, because he's a kid. Now, what we could do is we could get him to marry one of our sisters, I believe, or one of my daughters, even. There you go, my eldest daughter. How about that? He has political concerns, though, and this is where we get to the even more complicated stuff. Political concerns are essentially the game's way of telling you, oi, he's onto you and he knows what you're trying to do. Essentially, if he marries my daughter and they have a child, I have ways of making sure that my heir is that child. How? Elective, or open succession means that the most powerful son succeeds. Right? Let's say I have no sons. It falls down to brothers and grandchildren. All I would need to do is to make sure that my grandchild is the King of Francia, or better yet, a duke. Hell, even a count would do, because nobody else in the succession line has any titles. This is in my case. What about primogeniture? What about ultimogeniture? Well, it gets a little bit more difficult there, because, well, you know, your ruler is sort of a little bit more set in stone there. However, it does make it a little bit more stable, a little bit more easier to manage when you die, so that there are advantages and disadvantages to pretty much everything. Bear something in mind, though. Conquest is the most direct form of expansion. War is the most direct form of expansion. Marriage, assassinations, and plots are slow. They are very, very slow. They're possible to pull off, and usually very worthwhile, because you can take over a massive kingdom without any effort and without putting in any money or men. However, they are bloody slow. Remember that when doing it. Also, context. I have this situation, you will never have the same situation as I do. Basically, the first few months after you start the game, everything and anything is subject to RNG and dice rolls. And depending on those dice rolls, you will have your own situations to deal with. So I'm trying to sort of lay out a basic plan and strategy and things you need to put to bear in mind when trying to expand through marriage. Again, it is literally not possible to give you do this, this, and this in order to inherit a kingdom. Literally not possible. But while we're at it, let's take a look at a sort of a little bit off topic, but I think useful nonetheless. Let's take a look at an alternative way to claim the kingdom, right? Remember, his heir has claims. Strong claims on actually on all three of the kingdoms. When he turns 16, I can invite him to my court. He's probably not going to accept because he doesn't like me, he doesn't have much reason to, and he's going to become the heir of West Francia, now, as soon as his brother dies. However, if his brother has children, he's no longer the heir. I could invite him to my court, give him a duchy somewhere, and all of a sudden I have a vassal who has a claim on all three kingdoms in West Francia, and I can declare war for West Francia. Well, you know, all three kingdoms actually, West, Middle, and West, Middle, and East, yes. So, again, we're talking about expanding without war, but that is an option. Bear that in mind when calculating whether it's worth trying to get it through marriage or not. Another thing as well, expanding through marriage doesn't necessarily have to come from inheriting as well. Expanding through marriage can also come from claims. How do I mean that? What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at his sister. In our situation, useless. Why? She doesn't have any claims. She's a woman in a Muslim society, in a Sunni society. Not going to work. And all the progressivity possible in the world is not really going to help us at this stage because, you know, not going to happen. Not right now, at least. However, if we were to take a look at Christian woman, somewhere up north, in one of the later game starts, for example, we could take a look at, well, there's a queen right there, so that's a good start, but we could take a look at her. Or her. Ah, there we go. There's a good one. She has a weak claim on Chiefdom of Morai. Now, the Chiefdom of Morai is 4 provinces. Like, that's not bad. Basically, that means if you marry this woman, where was she? Yeah, here she is. Well, first of all, you need to kill her husband, but when you do that, if you marry her, you can push her claim on the chiefdom up here, make her the Duchess, and then when you two have a male child, your title and her title will have the same heir. Now, this does not necessarily have to happen. First of all, having a healthy male child to carry on the line between both of you is not always guaranteed, but usually is. Besides, you can cheat, and as long as she doesn't find out... Well, no, you can't actually, because she's the one who needs to have the children. And you can't just show up at a doorstep one day and say, hey, this is our baby, it's your baby too, and she's like, no, it's not, I didn't give birth to it. Oh. But, yeah, if you're a woman, you can cheat, and have... Yeah, it's not really equal, is it? There's not much equality in that sense. At any rate, before we get too sidetracked. It's not always guaranteed for one little bit more serious reason as well. Laws. My laws right now are open. Open succession. Most powerful son, brother or grandson, if you don't have a son, inherits. So we could have a child. He could be a really great heir, but one of my children could be a duke, and he's the one that would inherit. In which case, I'd need to try and get rid of him, but that's like a series of very complicated plots to kill your own children, right? Can't really do that. So it's very complicated to do that in certain situations, nigh impossible in the time limit. Here's the thing, though. It also could happen that she has different laws from yours, vice versa. You could be on primogenitor, she could be on ultimogenitor. Which, if you have one child, is not a problem, but what happens if you accidentally get two? You're gonna try and murder the other one? Yeah, you can't really murder your children, though, is the problem. So, I mean, you can tainted touch your children, you can demonic possession them, you can imprison them and then chop their heads off, but you can't plot to murder them, which... yeah, we'll talk about that. Alright, at any rate, that's about it as far as inheritance goes with the laws. Now, what else is there to talk about? Well, let's see. There is also another thing you can do, I suppose. It's a little bit of a sort of like a long way around of doing it. And that is, let's say my son is not the one to inherit. Or let's say he does, but his brother then inherits the title, the main title, from him. If I was married to a woman that had a strong claim, they would inherit her claim. I wouldn't get it, but they would. So as a husband, I don't get that claim, but our children do. Even if the woman in question was not a ruler, that could be useful as well, because all of a sudden you're playing as a ruler with a strong claim, which is a good thing. But then again, that's again doing it through war, which we don't really have the intent on doing, I suppose. Right. Is there anything I'm missing? Well, yes, there's always going to be something I miss, but again, context. I'm trying to give you sort of like a basic overall rule set for what to do. Secondary wives, they just add like another convoluted thing to the equation. Good news is that usually the people you want to marry are going to be your primary wives, and if they're your secondary wives, it doesn't really work out all too well, and they'll probably not accept it anyway. So, try and make it your primary wife. Obviously in Christianity you don't have this problem, but in Muslim and Germanic religions you do. Well, it's a problem and a blessing, I suppose, but yeah, you decide, right? Okay, what else? We talked about elective, so you can obviously picking your heir is by far the most powerful thing, but could go pear-shaped rather quickly, that nobody will deny. Something to pay attention to, however, as well. I mentioned assassinations. You're going to be killing people a lot in this game, and in general, but in this particular goal of yours that you have in order to achieve it, you're going to be killing people quite a lot. So, let's say I want him to come to my court. But that's not entirely true either, so I want to get this title through marriage exclusively. What could we do? Well, women don't have strong claims and women can't inherit, so... not much, I'm afraid. Again, marrying him to one of my sisters is a start, because then their children would be my relatives, and then I can start finagling something, right? Then I can start finagling in that if their child is my relative, and he runs out of brothers and sisters and cousins to inherit his position, Eventually the mantle will fall to me. Eventually. Again, this takes time, and in order to demonstrate this, it would take like 2 or 3 hours of gameplay from now, right? But basically, I can show you with words, if not with pictures and deeds. So he marries my daughter, which he doesn't want to do, again, political concerns. So in such situations, you just can't do it as well, and that's also a thing to bear in mind. But he is not a king, so he's not as cautious, as you can see. So he will be betrothed to my daughter. So let's send him the betrothal thing. Boom. Done. Alright? Good. Now, we need to make sure that he gets on the throne. Why? Well, he wouldn't accept marriage with my daughter, but he would because he's not the king. So if we kill him, make him the king, you know, his brother, he will still be betrothed to my daughter, and he will accept it because breaking betrothal is not something the AI does almost ever. It's very, very rare. He would need to have like a -100 opinion of me, which he won't. So even if I kill his brother. So we need to kill him through a plot which is difficult enough already. Or we could send assassins after him, like so. I believe that makes me a murderer or something. No, not yet. But the kid did lose an eye during this, and he is severely injured. So there is a chance that he just straight up dies, okay? And I got wounded because he sent assassins back after me. Right, and then I'm going to send assassins after him. But that didn't help either. Yeah, you see the problem. Sure. And then I run out of money, don't I? Yeah, kinda do. Okay, so he's stressed, he's severely injured, and he's missing an eye. We're on our way to murder him, don't you worry. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's see, what else can we do? I can execute a few people. In the meantime, you know, because we're bored. We're like that, apparently. I can Tainted Touch him, can't I? Yes, I can. There we go, Tainted Touch. Right. Right, there we go. And he's now coughing and probably has contracted some sort of horrible illness. So we're well on our way to kill him. Obviously, the Tainted Touch thing doesn't work if you don't have all the proper DLC, but there is stuff you can do. Sending more assassins after him is one thing, right? You could also, if you're the proper culture, you could raid his capital, I suppose, try and catch him out in prison and then execute him. Something along those lines, right? So, let's see how this goes and whether he actually dies. I have given him cancer, so it's guaranteed, right? Majin's dance on his grave, so he basically is guaranteed to die at this point. Eventually. Any minute now. He will die, I guarantee you this. He will die. And I will go through with this demonstration. Whatever. There's a problem that I'm trying to run a Europe-wide empire here, and meanwhile I'm focusing on exclusively one thing, but that's fine, we can always load back. And besides, the empire runs itself at this stage, kind of. Alright, there we go, whatever. 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 How's the council doing, by the way? Good. Just want to take a quick look at the vassals. You hate me, and you're a proper king, aren't you? Why? Wrong government, wrong school. Shame. I could kill you, but I have another plot running already. King of Italy really hates me. Why do you hate me? Title claim it. Really? You have a weak claim. Wow. Have some money. Aggression pact? Not yet. Alright, never mind. Okay. Yeah. Let's get Frail removed. Ooh, sweet. Are you dead yet? No. You have one eye, you have cancer. You're scarred. I've sent assassins after you. You had a successful treatment. God damn it. Alright. Send more assassins after him. He's dangerous, by the way, because he will send assassins back, and it's always a little bit of a gamble who hits first. Or whose assassins are more potent. But you get the idea. The idea is to have him killed. So let's have him killed. 1122 474. Right, as if by just type in kill with 2 L's. There we go. So lo and behold, he's dead. Right now, he is at the throne. We'll let a little bit more time pass by. What do you want? No. And this is with debug mode on, so don't really pay too much attention to all of this. Mind you, she's 9 though, so never mind, it's going to take ages to demonstrate. So, at any rate, we'll imagine for a second that they two now get married, because he will accept marriage when the entire thing is said and done. They will have children, and technically, it is a little bit sort of possible for me to have that kid of theirs be my heir. Of course, I would have to not have male children of my own, so I need to get divorced and stay away from women like they were the devil. Ironic considering Lucifer's own. But yeah, in order to have that entire thing happen, right? So there's one way. There's one way we could have done it. What if he had children though? And what if his brother had a title and wouldn't accept marriage? You get the point, right? The amount of variables is damn near infinite, but there's one way that you can finagle that, I suppose, demonstrated right there. Again, there are some things you need to look out for, and I'm trying to sort of provide like a wide understanding of how it works. You're looking for the same heir for both your primary title and his. Okay? Or, you know, better yet, you put your heir on his as his primary title, right? But that is, again, usually done through warfare. It's incredibly convoluted, and there is not much I can tell that works in every single game, but what little there is, I believe I sort of laid it out for you. Remember claims. Claims are very important. Remember laws. Remember to check them. For those of you that don't know, you can check the laws of a kingdom, specifically the inheritance laws, by simply clicking on the kingdom here and mousing over it, and you'll see the line of succession, which is actually very useful, because when you see the line of succession, you can see how many people you need to kill before you get to wherever you want to get to, or whoever you want to get to. And you can see the type of succession it is. So, the Kingdom of Scotland has agnostic, cognatic, gavelkind succession. So you can check that with any title ever, including simple counts to something as high as kings and emperor titles. So there you go, there's that. Is there anything else? Well, I don't think so. Again, remember that female rulers of whatever title are the easiest way you can do this. If the ruler is male, you have a lot of assassinations in front of you. So here, I think what I would need to do is wait for them to have a kid, and then I think I would need to murder my brothers? Possibly, though a lot of them would die of old age. But I may need to murder a couple of my brothers in order for the kid that they have, which is essentially my grandson, to become a possible heir. Again, it takes time. There's one way of doing it. That's about it. What about, like, the internal dynasty relationships? That it has to be like, does your sister have to be their wife to the person you're trying to remove and stuff like that? No, it doesn't have to be a sister always. It could be your daughter. I displayed that. It could be your sister as well. It could be your mother too. But the point is, you want to get a marriage going with the heir or the king or the duke, again, whatever title you're after. But don't bother with duchies because they're too small. Kingdoms is where you want to do this usually. Duchies is just way easier to conquer through war. So, marriage with him or him, daughter, sister, or mother, whatever, and then the product of their love, male, needs to be male and will be related to you, so that you then focus on having him become your heir. That's one of the most direct ways of doing it. Again, there are convoluted ways of getting it here as well. You could have his children's children put you in this sort of position, right? Especially if you don't have many children of your own and you sort of go off to sort of the sidelines of the dynasty tree in order to... That's not the dynasty tree. If you go sort of to the side of the family tree in order to get where you want to be, right? So, yeah, it's a complicated situation that we have going, but I suppose all that matters is eventually you can do it, and it takes time. You can do it. However, if this is something that you really want to do and have no alternative for, marriage is the only way you can expand at this point. Maybe the kingdom question is way too powerful. Pause the game and think about it. Analyze who's who, analyze what claims they have, and analyze what will happen after the death of each and every one of them in accordance with the law. Right? So, there you go. I mean, it's really as detailed as I can give you. I feel like I've let you down a little bit, and I knew this would happen. I knew I would get this feeling from the moment I started recording this, because you cannot give precise A to B advice as you can with pretty much everything else, right? Because I can tell you how to win the 1066 war and the Battle of England. Hell, I've showed you how. I can tell you how to push a claim. I can tell you how to win a holy war. I can tell you, actually I'm going to do an episode about holy wars as well. I can tell you how to successfully rebel against your liege from A to B and what you need to do with you know, minor variables accounted for here and there. But this is, in all due honesty, basically all variables. And you can't put a rule set when you have all variables, right? So, what little there is, I think I've explained somewhat well. Again, please, if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to let me know. If you have specific scenarios, and I will go this far as well, if you have specific scenarios that you would like help with, describe them down in the comments, and I will do my best to visualize this and try and provide you with one possible solution that's hopefully not too convoluted. But yeah, this is by far, in my personal experience, which is rather comprehensive, but is entirely subjective nonetheless. In my personal experience, this is the most difficult part of the game to make a tutorial on and to keep track of as well, because there's just so many things that could go wrong that could happen. The law could change, they could have children that you didn't account for, the person you're trying to marry could die, the woman in question, like sister, daughter, mother, whatever, could die as well. So there's so many things that could go wrong. So it's difficult to keep track of all of this, but yeah, it's like one of the most difficult aspects of the game. But I hope this helps you a little bit as well. Just bear in mind that you need to know what your goal is in each step. All right. Step 1 was to get them to marry. Step 2 was to remove the king. Step 3 was to wait for the child. Step 4 is to make sure that child is my heir, so I don't have any other male heirs that could take his place. This is my situation for West Francia, and matter of fact, for all 3 of the kingdoms, it's the same. So I would get all of this, and spoilers, I do end up getting all of this. There's an earlier save again, but yeah, there you go. So you know, I think it was in 1890 something that I got the entirety of this thing, and yeah, all of Europe in what, 100 years or so. Pretty impressive, right? Here's another thing: if it doesn't work, and sometimes you will just fail and it will not work, don't worry. The good thing about for all its problems and for all the complicated, convoluted lines you need to track for in terms of marriage and inheritance, the good thing is when it fails, you don't get punished for it. Right? Ultimately, if the entire plan fails, you will end up with either an ally on a powerful throne or back on ground zero. Right? It will not be worse than it was when you started, it will only be better. Either you will get the throne and all of the titles you want, or alternatively, you will not, but you will end up in a better position than you started with. So I guess that's one very positive aspect of this entire thing, that even if it fails, even if you mismanage something, or even just if you get the wrong roll of the die, you will still be in a better position usually than the one you started with. Again, not always, there's exotic examples of something else happening, but it happens, right? I mean, here's a good example, relatively. Attempted murder of sibling, minus 50 and dishonorable minus 20. He liked me for plus 45 when this was all over with. However, he's 16, in a few years he's going to forget about it, and we're going to be good, and he's going to be married to my daughter, and we're going to be probably allies. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Like, subscribe down below if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to stay tuned with the rest of the series and the rest of the content I produce on the channel. For any questions, please refer to the comments down below, and have fun, take care, enjoy CK2, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.